Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgi, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to another episode of Game Room, the show every single week on this channel where we just geek out about video games, and in honor of the new Assassin's Creed trailer coming out, we're going to celebrate today by counting down the top 10 best video game movies of all time. Let's do it! Number 10. Resident Evil is, okay, I guess it's fine. The first one, the rest are garbage, but the first one's, it's passable. Number 9. Mortal Kombat was dumb. It was dumb, but it was dumb fun at least. So that's something. Yeah! Number 8. Hey, I know it's not popular opinion, but I actually really like Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. I'm sorry, I've just been informed that that doesn't count because it had absolutely nothing to do with the video game. Number 7. Number 6. Do anime movies count? No, they don't? Alright. Number 5. Did I already say Mortal Kombat? Number 4. Number 3. Are we sure that anime movies don't count? I mean, what about Advent Children? I mean, it was CG, but that's not really anime. I mean, Oh, number 2. Oh! Silent Hill. Silent Hill, yes! I knew I could do it. Wait, was Silent Hill good? It was okay, I guess. Am I really putting that at number 2? Number 1! No Escape, the short film all about Portal. You, it does count. Short film, short film. It's got film in the description. It totally counts as a movie. Damn it! Okay, so video game movies have not had the best history, and if you've seen my recent review of Ratchet & Clank, you know that's still true to this day. However, there is finally hope. As I said, the new trailer for Assassin's Creed just came out, and it looks alright. It looks like it could be good. I'll admit I'm a little hesitant to praise any trailer for a video game movie at the moment, but I think I've earned that. However, even if this doesn't turn out to be good, there's still hope, because this year we still have World of Warcraft and Sly Cooper on the way, so this could very well be the year in which they finally prove that it is possible to make a good video game movie adaptation. So, I say it's time that we start preparing. That's why today I'm going to count down the top 10 video games that actually would make good movie adaptations. Now, like with any of my top 10s, there are some ground rules, and the ground rules for this episode is that these have to be games that don't already have a movie in development. And when I say in development, I don't mean that a studio came in and said, oh yeah, we're totally making that, and then we haven't heard anything from them in years. Producers and studios love to do that, where they just come in and call dibs on a property just so nobody else can, and they have no intention of actually making it. No, when I say in production, I mean there is a budget, there's a director, there's a writer, there is a release date, there's actors signed on. I mean that the wheels are in motion and it looks like this thing is actually going to be made. So no God of War, no Uncharted, no Metal Gear Solid, no Borderlands, no Five Nights at Freddy's, but everything else is up for grabs. So let's get into it.
At number 10 is Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus is one of the most beautiful and stunning games of all time. Whether you experienced it firsthand or just watched a playthrough of it, it was a game that would blow you away with its scope and contained a beautiful emotional tone to just the quiet moments between the battles. So why is it so low on the list? Well, because as amazing of a game as it was, it has one huge problem with making it a film adaptation, which are those quiet moments. This game has almost no story, no dialogue, just you going out into the endless stretches of land to slay these behemoths, and Hollywood isn't typically a big fan of leaving one character by themselves for 90 minutes. Although, with the recent success of Gravity, it is possible to pitch this film and get someone to pick it up. And for everyone out there who is asking, why does it have to be a movie? It's perfect as a game. Hey, I agree with you. It is perfect as a game. However, I have 3 things to say to you. IMAX, 3D, and D-Box. Imagine seeing this story on a screen so large the Colossi were practically life-size, with 3D glasses on so when they reached out to grab our hero or swung their weapon at them, you could see it coming right at you and in D-Box, so when they shook the earth with their steps, you actually felt it. When they tried to shake the protagonist off of their bodies, you actually felt yourself being shaken back and forth. One of the greatest things about this game is how overwhelming the Colossi were, and seeing this movie under the right circumstances would be even more stunning. Number 9. Castlevania. If you've watched this channel long enough, then you know that I'm a bit of a horror movie junkie, and while I wouldn't exactly describe Castlevania as a scary series, it does have some great horror elements to its design and its world that would make for a stunningly spooky action film. Think about it. Dracula is revived, and now 17th century Europe, which was already pretty spooky to begin with, is overrun with every type of monster you can think of and some brand new ones. In fact, they actually tried to make a Castlevania movie a couple of years ago, but eventually it was declared dead in the water, and considering that Paul W.S. Anderson was the one who wanted to make it, maybe that was for the best. But if you got someone with a truly creepy and crazy imagination like Guillermo del Toro on board for this movie, it would be a project worth bringing back from the dead. Number 8. Kerbal Space Program. Yeah, this is a bit of a leap from those last two, but hear me out. Not all these video game movies have to be aimed at adults and teenagers. Some of them can just be goofy fun movies for kids, and this is going to sound weird, but when I looked at all the options out there, Kerbal Space Program was the one that seemed like the best fit for a kids film. Why? You're probably screaming at your screen. Well, I'll tell you. First off, if you think a bunch of big-headed, short, cartoony creatures that only speak gibberish wouldn't do well at the box office, well... And secondly, yeah, as I said, this would be a goofy fun movie for kids, but it would still be nice if that movie could teach kids something, and considering that Kerbal Space Program is a game all about designing and redesigning rocket ships so that you can make them successfully fly through space, you could actually teach kids a lot in this movie about space travel, physics, rocket science. Honestly, what I'm suggesting isn't a stretch. There's actually been reports from across the country of science teachers actually using Kerbal Space Program in their classes already. So if you could take that and put it on the big screen, I'd totally be in favor of it. Number 7. Red Dead Redemption. I almost didn't put Red Dead Redemption on this list simply because it seemed too easy. I mean, the game itself was already so cinematic that as I played it, it felt like I was going through a Western movie. But when I stopped and thought about it, I realized we need a Red Dead Redemption movie. There are so many critics out there who still view video games as being some childish pastime and lacking truly great stories, and many of these critics also think fondly back on the golden age of Westerns and wish that they would come back. So honestly, I think that if we could turn this into a Western as stunning as the game itself, it would finally silence those last few naysayers out there who still don't realize just how far we've come with video game storytelling. That and John Marsden is just a character who needs to exist on the big screen.
My name's John Marston. I'm here to capture or kill Bill Williamson.
At number 6, Undertale. When I was making this list, my wife suggested adding Undertale to it, and honestly, I had no idea how that would work. I mean, yeah, it's a great game that overwhelmed this community in a way that few games actually can, but it's so wild and crazy, and I couldn't picture it being adapted to movies. But then she said 3 words to me that sold me. Jim Henson's Studios. Yes, they don't make as many films as they used to, but they're still around, still making really good looking practical effects, and it made me think back to some of the other movies that they did make back in the 80s, like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And sure, there's a far stronger sense of humor in Undertale than there were in any of those movies, but just look at those movies, and then look at the style and the design and the imagination of the world of Undertale. I could totally see this company bringing Sans and Papyrus and all the other amazing characters in this game to life. Number 5. Legend of Zelda. With a classic protagonist, strong supporting characters, one of gaming's most memorable villains, and a giant vast world, this could become one of the most memorable fantasy lands in cinema history if you actually captured it correctly. All you have to do is just pitch this as the Lord of the Rings of video game movies, or in all ages Game of Thrones, and any studio out there would be crazy not to jump at it. And yes, it would require a huge budget to really capture this world, but that's the other great thing about this series. It's that Legend of Zelda is one of the few game franchises out there that is so well known that just the name alone could probably bring in a large enough audience to pay it all off. It's always a risk whenever you make a huge, big budget fantasy film, but Legend of Zelda would be a safe bet. At number 4, Overwatch. Okay, I know this game hasn't officially come out at the time of this recording. However, I have played a ton of the beta and it's incredibly fun. The characters in this world are so imaginative, and yet there's no story mode. But at the same time, all the trailers for this game depict this huge, great story that exists behind this team-based shooter game. So if there's no story mode, and there's no plans to add a story mode later, despite the fact that, trust me, we would all be willing to pay for that, then you leave us with no other choice but to turn this into a movie. Trust me, there are people out there who are huge fans of the tiny bits of lore that we have gotten about this game, and we want to see that lore, we want to see that story, and if we can't see it in the game, then heck, make it a movie! You don't even have to make this some live action film. Those trailers look so damn good, and the people crafting this game clearly know what they're doing when it comes to this lore, so just give them a budget and we will gladly go and see a 90-minute long cinematic that they put together. Number 3, Grand Theft Auto. I don't even feel like saying anything for this one other than just duh. Seriously, not only is this game incredibly popular, but also think about the premise of this game franchise. Then think about how many crime movies come out every single year that could have basically just been retitled Grand Theft Auto and nobody would have questioned it. And before you say, yeah, but could they really have interpreted these characters correctly? The protagonists, supporting characters, and locations of the GTA games change in every installment. You could totally create a brand new world for this movie, and as long as you captured the spirit of the games, which many films do every year already, it would still be a GTA game. Seriously, I know I said I almost didn't put Red Dead Redemption on this list because it seemed too obvious, but this one is so obvious that it feels like if I didn't put it on here, it would be a crime. Number 2, Metroid. I don't have to tell you what a great game franchise Metroid is. I don't have to tell you how beloved Samus is as a character. I don't have to tell you how amazing it would be to watch her running around these crazy planets or see her fighting these massive, overwhelming monsters. I don't have to tell you that because it's obvious to everyone. Except for movie producers and Nintendo, I guess. Metroid combines the perfect amount of story, action, tension, and imagination to make a truly great movie. And it would bring one of video games' greatest female protagonists to the cinema, and when you think about how other female game protagonists have been portrayed so far, yeah, maybe we need Samus right now. And if a studio tries to tell you that people don't want to watch an awesome heroine in space, just tell them... And at number 1, Street Fighter and Resident Evil. Alright, hold up, let me make my argument. I know everyone is saying, why are these two at number 1? They've already had movies that stunk. Exactly. The reason these two games are tied for number 1 is because these movies are the poster childs for bad video game movie adaptations. Both Resident Evil and Street Fighter would make amazing movies, and yet they've been screwed over in ways that are mind-boggling. Almost everything wrong with video game movies are in these adaptations, and those are the arguments for why they need someone to come in and redeem them. I mean, for crying out loud, these films didn't even get it close. Everyone makes fun of how they cast the all-American Guile as Belgium actor Jean-Claude Van Damme. But forget about that, just think about the fact that out of 2 Street Fighter movies, neither one of them actually starred Ryu. You know, the star of this entire franchise. Making a Street Fighter movie about Guile is like making a Mario movie about Toad. And Resident Evil, don't even get me started on how far off this is. These movies feel like Paul W.S. Anderson just wrote his own story after reading the back box description of the games, and every now and again someone just ran up to him and said, you know, you need to actually include something from the games in here, right? And so he just had a crappy cosplayer run on there for a cameo to remind people, oh right, Resident Evil, I got it. There are so many ways to make a good Street Fighter or Resident Evil movie, and yet these two franchises are infamous for constantly getting it wrong. So if you really want to prove to the world that you could make a good video game movie, then you should probably start by redeeming these two franchises. But even if the films that I pitched never ever get it made, I just cannot stress to you enough how important it is that we finally get a good video game movie. This entire genre deserves to be redeemed. It deserves to have someone come in here and fix it. And considering the fact that Nintendo is currently starting a bidding war for a live action Pokemon movie, could we prove that it's possible to get these things right before Nintendo sells this over to these two guys? That's it for this episode of Game Room. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, we cover everything from the world of geekery on this channel, including video games, movies, comic books, and more, and we talk about games here on Game Room once a week. So if you want to see next week's episode, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you want some fun gaming top 10s from me, then click here to see my top 10 fighting game franchises that I want to see, and click here to see my top 20 characters that I want as DLC for Pokken. Thanks again, everyone, and if you like this episode, then help us out by sharing this video around the web. Every time that you do it, it helps us grow, and I really appreciate it. Also, make sure to give us a thumb up. That makes it easier for people to find us. So, thank you all for tuning in, and let me know which game you think would make a good movie in the comments down below. Alright, everyone, see you next time.